With incredible speed, a feeling of disgust races through my entire body, leaving me frozen on the spot, despite not wanting to hear it. The characteristic sound of a woman's voice during the acts of a man and woman regularly invades my ears. There's no mistake, Daniel is cheating on me right now, in our own house. Ugh. The voice from beyond the wall is vividly alive, and something wells up inside my chest, paired with my feeling unwell. I almost vomited but managed to suppress it with my hand and swallowed. What should I do? What should I do in such a situation? As I panic with teary eyes, suddenly the words of my mother-in-law come back to me. If you're ever in trouble, I'll definitely help you, just let me know. I shouldn't show her son's affair. But having no parents of my own, I couldn't think of anyone else to rely on. Frantically, I called my mother-in-law from my call history. After a few rings, I heard the familiar voice of my mother-in-law. Hillary? I was just... Mary. Your son is in big trouble. What? I interrupted the conversation and shouted. I am Hillary Thompson, a 33-year-old part-time housewife. Last year, I married Daniel, who is the same age as me. Daniel works for a well-known local company. He's what you'd call an elite. It's a bit embarrassing to say, but we met at a bar where Daniel hit on me. After finishing work and drinking with a friend, Daniel and his friend, who were also returning from work, approached us. Normally, I would instantly refuse a pickup, but that day, both my friend and I were drunk and cheerful. I thought it would be okay, just to drink together, and we ended up sharing a table. Perhaps due to tequila shots, Daniel and I hit it off, and we exchanged contact information. The day after Daniel contacted me, things moved quickly. And before I knew it, we were regularly dating. He's high-earning, a good talker, and not bad-looking either. He's experienced with women and acts very smoothly. At first, I wondered why he was single until 33. In the countryside here, most people marry in their 20s. It's rare for someone to be unmarried after 30. Maybe Daniel had no desire to marry at all. Or maybe, to him I was just a fling. Although I felt a bit hazy, I couldn't ask him. About 6 months later, I was suddenly proposed to by Daniel. It was an unexpected event, and my heart leapt with joy. I was so happy that when I responded to him, my true feelings accidentally slipped out. Actually, I thought you were the type who wouldn't marry, so I'm surprised. But I'm happy. Then, with tears of joy, I replied to him, but Daniel, without changing his expression, said, I've been married before. Well, it didn't work out. What? His response was so unexpected that several question marks popped up in my mind. What do you mean? Didn't I tell you? Upon pressing him further, it turned out that Daniel was indeed divorced. Moreover, he had gotten divorced the day before we met. I met you right after I became single. It just had to be fate. No, that's... I don't have any prejudice against divorcees. There are always compatibility and incompatibilities between people. However, honestly, knowing that Daniel approached me the day after his divorce gave me an indescribable feeling of mistrust. Normally, one doesn't switch gears that quickly from being a spouse. Above all, until now, I had no idea Daniel was divorced. That was what really stuck in my chest. Daniel himself didn't seem to care, but it was important to me. I wish he had told me such important things before we started dating. Perhaps it was apparent from my demeanor, but Daniel spoke with a troubled look. What's with that face? You're not going to say something like, I hate divorcees, right? Oh? No. I was just surprised. As I denied it, Daniel's mouth turned to a grin of satisfaction. That's right. You're the type who knows her place. Not like her. Daniel nodded. Her probably means his ex-wife. Even though I don't know her face or name, a sense of rivalry towards his ex-wife sprang up in me. Who was she? It's useless to think about it, but I can't help but wonder. Anyway. Now that we're getting married, please tell me important things first. I know. I just forgot to say it, okay?
Yeah.
With a sense of unease, we got married. But not even a month into our marriage, I would come to regret this decision. Caregiving?
Yeah.
My mom's still sharp mentally, but she's getting old. And now her legs aren't what they used to be. Looks like she'll need care soon. Despite my having said, please let me know important things. When I knew he had a history of divorce. I had heard that his father was on a solo assignment and his mother was living alone. But I had no idea until now that his mother's legs were impaired and she needed care. Since meeting Daniel, it's been a parade of things I hadn't heard. If only we had met face to face before getting married. When I said I wanted to greet before the wedding, Daniel refused, saying, "My hometown is in the next state, and I'm busy," and settled it over the phone. My parents passed away early, so there was no need for greetings, and I readily accepted that. I can't help but suspect that the reason Daniel insisted on a phone greeting at that time was to hide this fact and marry me before I found out. I also work, and I think caregiving would be quite difficult on weekdays.
Yeah.
It's tough when you're working. That's a relief. He doesn't intend to make me provide care. Although I feel bad for my mother-in-law, that relief was short-lived as Daniel naturally suggested. That's why. Hillary, you could even go part-time, right? What? Part-time work is more flexible, right? You could quit anytime if necessary. Look, I'm the one earning the money. Don't worry about it. What are you talking about? Suddenly informed about his mother, and now he suggests I switch to part-time work. Moreover, Daniel speaks as if he's making a concession, which is particularly infuriating. Don't say things on your own. You never mentioned anything about your mother's caregiving. It's one thing if it was planned for the future. But it's troubling to be told suddenly to switch to part-time. But I earn more. It wouldn't make sense for me to go part-time. Can you earn as much as me? His snickering attitude seemed condescending. Indeed, Daniel earns a high income, probably more than most of his peers. I can't earn the same amount as him. But that doesn't mean I have to comply with everything Daniel says. I bit my lip hard. I told you when we got married, tell me important things. Whether it's about your divorce history or this situation, you're always bringing things up later. Perhaps not expecting my pushback, Daniel clicked his tongue and glared at me. But I couldn't back down. I believed I wasn't saying anything wrong. I intended to answer about the divorce and caregiving if asked. Isn't it your fault for not asking? What? Am I supposed to specifically ask if you have a divorce history or if your parents need care? Despite my sarcastic tone, Daniel nodded seriously. Of course. It's your fault for not doing that. That's just. It's selfish to the extreme. But, maybe there's a point in what Daniel says? Maybe I should have asked more about his family beforehand. As I fell silent, Daniel looked triumphant. Excuses like, "I didn't hear it work, why didn't you tell me," won't work, right? Well, if you still have something to say, tell my mom directly. What? Look, we both have tomorrow off, so I'll take you to my parents' house. Say it yourself. Mom might be disappointed, though. After dropping that remark, Daniel retreated to his room. Directly to you, Mom. But we haven't even officially met. How could I possibly do such a rude thing? She seemed calm over the phone. It wouldn't be hard to refuse if she were unpleasant, but if she seems kind, I might feel guilty. But I have my own life too. It hasn't even been a month since our marriage. But I might need to consider divorce depending on the situation. I clenched my fist and resolved myself. The next day, Daniel and I drove to his parents' house, which took about an hour from our home. Upon arrival, his parents' house was a typical single-family home. Daniel confidently unlocked the door and I followed him inside. "Mom, we're coming in," he called as he opened the door to the back room. "Oh. Welcome." Sitting on the bed, the mother-in-law warmly waved at us. "Hello, nice to meet you. I'm sorry for being like this. I broke a bone a little while ago." "Oh no." It turns out, according to the mother-in-law, that she had a fracture and temporarily needed care. It's frustrating. "I want to walk on my own soon." Reacting to her words, Daniel turned around. "Huh? You can walk by yourself?" "Mom, didn't a doctor recommend a wheelchair?" "No. Just because I'm old. They said I might not be able to walk if I don't do rehabilitation." I sighed in relief. The caregiving story was a misunderstanding by Daniel. Knowing the truth at his parents' house, we were able to return home relieved. After that, I had a long talk with my mother-in-law, who turned out to be very gentle and kind. I hope I'm not causing Hillary any trouble? That child, maybe he's like his father, has some self-centered aspects. Good or bad, he's never faced failure in his life, so he's overly confident. Indeed, Daniel has always been full of confidence since we met. I thought it was charming, but now I see it as a problem. Did he force you to come today? Are you okay? The mother-in-law seemed genuinely concerned about me. No, I'm fine. Thank you. By the way, how are you managing the household chores? My sister's family lives nearby. They help me when it's absolutely necessary. It'll take time, but I can manage to walk if I try. Watching the mother-in-law smile shyly, I felt a tightness in my chest. At first, I was absolutely against the idea of becoming a part-time worker for caregiving. But before I knew it, I found myself wanting to be there for my mother-in-law. After discussing with my workplace, I switched to part-time. I couldn't visit my in-laws every day, but I made sure to show my face once a week. My mother-in-law was quite apologetic and repeatedly thanked me, saying, "I'm sorry," to which I simply replied, "It was my decision." Perhaps having lost my parents early, I saw my own parents in her. Daniel initially expressed his gratitude, saying, "I feel bad for you." A few months later, although her fracture had healed, my mother-in-law began her days of rehabilitation. "Hillary, it must be hard for you to come all this way?" "I'm fine now. My leg is healed." She was being considerate, but she still walked unsteadily. Moreover, since my mother-in-law couldn't drive, she had to use a bus or taxi to get to the hospital. I might be overstepping, but I'm worried. So please let me continue to visit frequently. Oh. Hillary, how sweet of you, thank you. I would visit her about twice a week. During those days, I left food in the fridge for Daniel. And if I was going to be late, he'd heat it up himself and eat. To Mom's place again? I was hoping for a freshly cooked meal today. He would sigh like that occasionally, but I could only say, "I'll try to come home early." Within a few months, my mother-in-law's rehabilitation progressed smoothly. And she was able to walk normally again. By then, I had become close with her sister's family who lived nearby. And we all celebrated her recovery. It's all thanks to you, Hillary. Thank you so much. If you ever need anything, I'll definitely be there to help, just let me know. Thank you. Please let me come and visit again. Her sister would embarrass me by praising me too much, saying, Daniel has really found a wonderful wife. Perhaps I was a bit relaxed because her rehabilitation had ended. One day during my part-time job, I suddenly felt terribly dizzy. The surroundings warped, and my head spun. I really wanted to hold out until the end of my shift, but it seemed unbearable. After consulting with my boss, I decided to leave early. I wanted to lie down as soon as possible. Staggering, I managed to get home. I opened the front door and somehow took off my shoes. That's when my eyes widened. Daniel's work shoes and unfamiliar women's shoes were lined up. The word infidelity floated in my dizzy head. I quietly held my breath and moved from the entrance to the living room. Despite deciding to enter, no one was in the living room. However, from the bedroom in the back, I could hear some noises. As I tiptoed to the door, I didn't even need to open it to understand what was happening in the next room. A tremendous speed of disgust raced through my whole body, freezing me in place. Despite not wanting to hear the characteristic sounds of a man and woman's activities regularly pierced my ears. There was no doubt, Daniel was cheating right here in our house at this very moment. Ugh. The voice through the wall vividly surged, and something rose from my chest. Combined with my feeling unwell, I almost vomited but managed to suppress it with my hand and swallow. What should I do? What should I do in such a situation? As I panicked with teary eyes, suddenly the words of my mother-in-law came back to me. If you're ever in trouble, I'll definitely help you, just let me know. I shouldn't show my son's affair. But having no parents of my own, I couldn't think of anyone else to rely on. I managed to get back to the entrance and, with trembling hands, I took out my smartphone and frantically called my mother-in-law from my call history. After a few rings, I heard the familiar voice of my mother-in-law. Hillary? I was just Mary. Your son is in big trouble. What? I interrupted the conversation and exclaimed. Then, while intermittently breaking up, I somehow explained the situation. My mother-in-law kindly responded and seemed to be trying to calm me down. What a thing, that stupid son. After telling everything, my mother-in-law sighed heavily on the other end of the phone. Mother, I'm sorry for suddenly making this call. I just don't know what to do. It's okay, Hillary. I'm coming right now. Please wait for me. Yes. After hanging up the phone, I gradually calmed down. Talking to my mother-in-law might have helped. She said she would come right away, but my mother-in-law can't drive. Even if she asked someone from her sister's family to drive her, it would take an hour from her home to ours. I don't know how long Daniel and his affair partner will be in the house. There's no guarantee they will wait for my mother-in-law to arrive. Moreover, even if they stayed until her arrival, by then, everything might be over. And they could act as if nothing had happened. If they just say, we were just having coffee at home, that would be the end of it. Without evidence, they could deny everything. Then, I need to gather evidence now. They are in the midst of their act right now. They surely wouldn't dream that I would come home early from my part-time job. If they are completely off guard, it should be easier to obtain evidence. All right, I can do this. After taking a few deep breaths, I returned to the living room. Just like before, I approached the bedroom door, where I could hear vivid voices. Perhaps because I was mentally prepared, although I felt nauseous and uncomfortable. I was not as shaken as before. Carefully, I started recording on my smartphone. The voice of the affair partner was loud, which assured me that the recording was going well. However, this alone might be weak as evidence of the affair. If possible, I wanted more conclusive evidence. Should I quietly open the door? No, if I open the door, they'll definitely notice. If they realize, it's over. The risk is too great. As I was pondering what to do, Daniel's smartphone on the living room table caught my eye. It was carelessly placed. Quietly, I picked it up without making a sound. The password is. Of course. Daniel often didn't lock his phone while at home, because he found entering the password troublesome. As expected, it wasn't locked now. I wonder if he ever imagined I would look through his phone. Since he didn't even lock his phone, he must have never suspected infidelity. Could it be possible to cheat and yet be so unguarded with his phone? Should I take this as trust, or is he underestimating me, thinking he won't get caught? I don't know what Daniel is thinking. But now, I can look inside his phone. I feel a bit guilty, but just a little. I checked the messaging app and call history. What lined up was a name, Emma. Emma. Could this be the name of the woman he's cheating with? In the messaging app, there were several exchanges between Daniel and Emma that clearly suggested they were meeting up secretly. I scrolled through their conversation and recorded it with my own phone. Phew, that should do it. After finishing up with the phone, I placed it back on the table just as the voices behind the door stopped. A rush of tension went through me. Could it be? If their activity had ended, one or both might come out at any moment. I tried to hide quickly, but it was too late. Huh? Hillary? Why are you here? I was spotted by Daniel, who came out naked. Daniel's mouth twitched nervously. Then, stretching languidly, a woman peeked out from behind him. I could have slept a bit longer. Idiot. Emma. Go back inside. Daniel silently tried to push the woman back into the room. But the woman called Emma seemed even more eager to come out. Huh? What's up, Daniel? Go to the bathroom quickly. I need to go too. She said in a cajoling voice and then looked at me and exclaimed. Oh no. Could it be the current wife? And who might you be? Ignoring her question, I asked coldly, and Emma smirked. I'm Emma, Daniel's ex-wife. Despite being in her underwear, Emma showed no shame. Despite presumably knowing I was Daniel's wife, she looked at me as if I'm the one causing them the trouble. This was Daniel's ex-wife. Glancing at Daniel, he was now wearing only his underwear and hanging his head in shame. Cut it out, Emma. Don't make things more complicated. Wait, Hillary, there's a reason for this. It's not what it looks like. A reason for coming out naked from the same room with your ex-wife during the hours you should be working? I'd love to hear it. That is. Daniel's eyes darted around. What's the matter? Hurry up and tell me. It's not cheating, right? There must be a legitimate reason. Well, if you say legitimate. I'm stumped. As Daniel was lost for words, Emma chimed in from behind. What a crazy bitch. It's just cheating, what's the big deal? What? That's not okay, at all. Was this her justification? I grimaced in disbelief, and Emma laughed as if enjoying the situation. Because, it's different from being serious, right? If it's just cheating, he'll eventually come back to you. Isn't that good? In other words, she suggested that indulging in affairs and then casually returning to a safe marital home was acceptable. That's just disgusting, infuriating, and not okay, at all. Disgusting? Emma tilted her head in a questioning gesture. She seemed older than us, but how old was she, really? Yes, disgusting. Even now, hearing voices I never wanted to hear nearly made me vomit. What? Hillary, you've been back since then? Why didn't you say something? That's sneaky. Sneaky. Daniel was panicking and flustered. While both seemed oblivious to common sense, unlike the unabashed Emma, Daniel seemed aware that he was doing something seriously wrong. His mouth moved as he searched his brain for some excuse or something to counterattack with, though surely nothing could justify his actions. After all, cheating at home was beyond unreasonable. Caught in the act, and yet, I hadn't even received an apology. There was only one path left for me to choose. I want a divorce. What? Why? Why do you think we shouldn't? I'm done, I can't take this anymore. As I said this with a sigh, Daniel glared at me sharply. What's that supposed to mean, just a part-time housewife? Who do you think allows you to live so comfortably? Just as he screamed in a frenzy, Daniel violently swung his arm up. Dangerous. It's going to hit. I braced myself for the impact, but before it could happen, the living room door burst open. To my surprise, it was my mother-in-law and her sister's family who appeared. Daniel. What were you about to do? Tell me. You stupid son. Daniel let out a small scream and then plopped down on the spot. Mom? And why are Auntie and everyone here? We heard you were acting like a heated monkey at home. Oh, how shameful. Her daughter and son nodded in agreement. Seeing his aunt, Daniel's face turned pale. Despite being pale, his forehead was slightly sweaty. He seemed very disturbed. Sitting on the floor, he tried to escape from his aunt, but she firmly grabbed him by the back of his neck. You've always had a bad history with women. Auntie. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Daniel, who is usually arrogant and confident in front of everyone, somehow shrinks and curls up like a pill bug in front of his aunt. Moreover, even Emma seemed frightened. Is my aunt-in-law really that scary? Sure, she is straightforward, but during the few months I've seen her, I never found her intimidating. As I pondered this, the reason soon became clear. I'll tell this to your uncle as well. You better start looking for another job quickly. At her words, Daniel's complexion changed. No, please, Auntie. Wait. Please. Daniel's face turned even paler as he panicked. For some reason, he knelt down in front of his aunt and began to prostrate. That place is my calling. Please, I beg you, spare me. I watched in astonishment as Daniel nearly cried. Suddenly, standing next to me, my mother-in-law whispered in my ear. Actually, my sister's husband is the president of Daniel's company. What? My voice cracked in surprise. All that confidence, and Daniel was a nepotism hire. He looks good on the outside, but he's not so smart. He barely graduated from college, and he couldn't get a job offer from any other company. Apparently, his aunt's husband rescued him when they were wondering what to do. Despite boasting about his high income, he was a nepotistic hire. As I was still in shock, Daniel staggered over and spoke to me. Hillary, this is terrible. Auntie won't forgive me. Well, you reap what you sow, don't you think? If it continues like this, at best I'll be demoted. Or even fired. At my age, if I get fired, I won't be able to get into a decent company again. It's more about Daniel's abilities and personality than his age. But I just listened silently to him. So, I have a proposal. A proposal? When I asked again, Daniel nodded with satisfaction. Somehow, Auntie likes you. So, you should plead with her to let me stay at the company. He declared it as if it were a great idea, leaving me confused. Why should I? Aren't spouses supposed to support each other? Don't worry, I'll look for a job too. I'll find one quickly. No, that's not the point. That's completely off the mark. How can he be so self-centered? I took a deep breath and firmly told him. Daniel and I are getting a divorce, and soon we'll be strangers. Spouses should support each other, yes. But I have no intention of spending another moment of my life with you. No. But. Look, you loved me, right? That's why you even took care of my mom, right? He's a man who refuses to face reality. While giving a flattering smile, he spouted nonsense as if clinging to me. I just wanted to help your mother. Maybe I saw my own parents in her. Hillary. I wanted to help my kind mother-in-law. I wanted to repay the kindness I couldn't give my own parents. Mother, even if I divorce Daniel, let's still have coffee together. Yes, of course. She smiled warmly. Meanwhile, Daniel was fidgeting nervously. Hillary. Emma suits you better than me. Since you sneak out of work to be with each other, why don't you get back together? Good luck to you both. No. I won't accept it. Emma is good for a fling. But I realized she's not suitable for marriage. I will follow you wherever she goes. As Daniel declared his intention to stalk me, I was preparing to consult the police when an unknown man grabbed Daniel's shoulder. Shameful, Daniel. Huh? Dad? The man turned out to be Daniel's father. I had never met him, so I was unaware of who he was. I was scheduled to come home for a bit today. I was doing some work at the company, but your mother called me urgently, so I rushed over. Daniel seemed to shrink even smaller. You know what you need to do, right, Daniel?
Ah.
Yes. Hillary, I am truly sorry. Daniel was then led away by his father to a back room, while Emma was calmly lectured by the mother-in-law. Afterwards, I successfully divorced Daniel. It was all thanks to my in-laws and my mother-in-law's sister's family. Daniel had become completely subdued and readily signed the divorce papers. I also received a substantial amount of compensation. Daniel paid the compensation for both himself and Emma out of his savings in one lump sum. Naturally, Daniel resisted, but here too, my in-laws and my mother-in-law's sister's family supported me. The amount was surprisingly large, and when I consulted with my mother-in-law about it, she advised, he did enough to deserve it. Just take it. Now, nearly bankrupt, Daniel is left with hardly any savings. Having money didn't lead him to good things, so from now on, his parents will manage his bank accounts. He was, of course, fired from his job and reluctantly started working part-time. However, he is struggling with the drastic change from his previous job and seems quite depressed. As for Emma, she's diligently working as a cashier at a supermarket. Still, because the compensation Daniel fronted is being strictly reclaimed by the in-laws, her life is reportedly quite tough. Emma loves shopping and tends to be extravagant with money. But recently, due to her need to save money, she hasn't been buying anything and apparently has aged significantly. Interestingly, the initial cause of their divorce was also due to Emma's reckless spending. As for me, I pleaded with my company and am now working there as a full-time employee. I've also resumed living alone. Though I'm divorced from Daniel, I regularly meet with my former mother-in-law and her sister's family. I have no lingering feelings for Daniel, but I am grateful that meeting him led me to his family. These are the thoughts I have nowadays.